Hi, I'm Mudit. I am founder and CEO of Dozee and very glad to be here interacting today with Akshay.
Did you know that the US spends almost 16% of its GDP on healthcare, making it one of the biggest sectors in the economy? And while the space of healthcare has seen a lot of disruption in the pharmacy and outpatient side, the core business of running hospitals has not changed as much, which is what makes Dozy one of the most important health tech companies around. In this episode of the Founder Thesis podcast, your host Akshay Dutt talks to Mudit Dandwate, the founder of Dozy, about his extraordinary journey of building up Dozy. Unlike many other health tech startups, Dozy is not just building a software stack but also a physical product along with it. They have made it possible for hospitals to get data about patients' vital statistics 24/7 in a non invasive manner. And this is a game changer for patient care. Stay tuned and subscribe to the Founder Thesis podcast on any audio streaming platform for inspiring stories of courage and disruption from India's finest founders.
Okay. So, where are you from? Which city were you born in? Where did you grow up?
So I was born and brought up in Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh.
And what did your parents do?
So my dad was an engineer in Doordarshan and Prasar Bharati and Akashvani and so on. So that's where I got very fascinated with engineering. And my mom, for the least, I would say she's a hustler. And then she has done, I would imagine, almost everything from growing mushrooms to and selling it to doing stock trading, commodity trading, selling insurance, right? So big influence also comes from her because I think being an entrepreneur, I think that I learned from my mom.
Wow, amazing. So, did you do an engineering then? What was your chosen career path when you were in school?
Always one of my dreams was, and I always used to ask my dad, was that I want to create my own car. Right. So how do I do that? So my dad basically had a very dad answer, right, for that. So he was like, for doing that, you need to go to one of the best engineering colleges in the country. You have to aim for IIT Mumbai, and then you get to create your own car. So that's how I always wanted to, and that's how my dream kind of shaped up. And yeah, I started preparing for IIT JEE. I went to IIT Mumbai, mechanical engineering, exactly, what he told me to do. But the funny part was when of course I reached there was no cab there, right? There were only courses. So it also shaped further over there after that because then what I did was I founded a race car team in IIT Mumbai. So even convinced dean of R&D that this is what students should be doing for learning and all that. And we used to create race cars. And I made 4 full-scale race cars in my stint in IIT Mumbai, and it was amazing. In fact, India's first electric race car was built by our team.
Wow, amazing. So, are there like student run race car events, or you were participating in those regular racing events?
So it was, racing events, but for students. So it's kind of on the same lines of Formula racing, but for students. So we used to go to Silverstone and other parts of the world, taking our car along with us and used to race it. So there used to be a full racing season when we used to be out. It was lots of fun. And I also used to be the driver of the car as well. It was a rocket ship. So it used to do 0 to about 103 seconds. So it was a rocket ship that way.
Okay, and this was a EV that you built.
It was an EV. So I built both EVs as well as I built all-terrain vehicles. So we had two distinct competitions in which we used to go in. So one was all-terrain vehicle, which was more for dirt driving and all of that. So that was one set. So you used to jump over the logs and all of that. And the other part was EV.
Hmm. Wow, amazing. Okay. So then what? by the time you finished IIT, what did you want to pursue as your career?
So the thing that I wanted to pursue after that was again in the similar lines. In fact, joined a company which was into mechanical simulations for race cars and all of that. Altair Engineering I joined. That's where I learned to use a lot of data analytics, right, engineering to improve, optimize vehicle health, performance, and all of that.
Hmm. But what does Altair do? Tell me about Altair.
So Altair is known for creating these mechanical simulation softwares, right?
Okay, it's a software company.
Correct. For automotive industry generally. So for CAD design, for CAD optimization, and then multi-body dynamics and so on, right? So I used to be in multi-body dynamics team, which used to cater to the automobile division to help teams, help companies optimize their vehicle performance using data analytics and all that. So that's where I got this entire hang of how to, use simulation data, how to use sensor data, telemetry to improve vehicle health. And finally, it transpired that, why it is restricted to vehicle health? Why can't we bring it to human health? And that's how Dozy actually came out.
So, like, I mean, you were in a job. I'm assuming it would have been a well-paying job, and you, what made you feel that okay, let me quit this well-paying job and become an entrepreneur? What was that trigger moment?
There were actually more than one trigger moment, right? It was kind of a build-up for that, which finally led to the decision. So one thing, again, I this always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Wanted to, decide what I want to do, especially in the high energy period of my life. Right, I wanted to do something in which I can really control the destiny. And uh,
Like you wanted to recreate that IIT Bombay race car. I'm assuming you would have been in control of that team and deciding and all of that.
A lot of it, yes, right. So one was that. The second trigger was that what was the difference that I was also making, right? I was working very hard, we were doing things, but what were we doing? We were probably making few German cars faster, few Japanese cars faster, and so on and they are already quite fast, right? So did they really require it? Answer was maybe. But and it thrills us all. But actually, the delta difference that you are creating was not really enticing me enough over there. And one of course part is that the growth that I was looking for myself, I was not getting exactly that. Right over that. So all of these things, and then combined with one few of the family events that happened in the family, which really exposed, how broken the healthcare system was in India, and that really got me thinking that, why can't we really work on this to fix it rather than, creating these delta kind of innovations over there, right? Why can't we just fix?
So what happened in your family? Like what were those events?
Yeah, so one of them was my uncle had diabetes for very long. So both the kidneys failed and he had to go through kidney transplant and so on, right? So I really saw that, how frail human health can be. And secondly, right, over there, the kind of monitoring which was available, there were lots of lapses which happened in his treatment, right, which prolonged a lot of things and they were easily avoidable. Only if someone was monitoring it more diligently, only if we had better tools to do that, right? I'm not blaming anyone over there. But, and everyone was trying their best, but, we are just not equipped today in 21st century. We are still using a lot of age-old technologies, age-old techniques, right? And the volume of patients that we are catering to, nurses are lesser, doctors are not that many as well, right? So it's impossible if we don't adopt technology, and that's what led to this thought process.
What was the plan? What was your 0 to 1 journey?
So the 0 to 1 journey, actually there was no plan to start with. So both me and Gaurav started discussing that there are a lot of gaps. One of the
And Gaurav is your IIT batchmate.
Gaurav and me were colleagues in Altair, and he comes from IIT Indore, right? Same batch. So we joined together. So we were working very closely always, and right, so I always wanted to bounce off my idea with him because he will always give a very fresh perspective and not just say yes for yes, right? So discussed thoroughly with Gaurav. Gaurav loved it. He's like, yes, we should be doing this. And Gaurav was all prepared to go for his master's. Right? He was like, check this, we are going to do this. And we both started this. So that is how it began. But, as you asked, first we started identifying what are the gaps. So this was our hypothesis that healthcare is broken. What we did was for next 2 to 3 months and all of that, right? We just went down deep in the market, talked to a lot of doctors, talked to a lot of hospital owners, and so on. Try to understand what are really the gaps and try to also observe over there that, not just talking to them what gaps they are feeling, because that might be always an incremental thing. राइट उनको यही मतलब व्हाट दे वुड आस्क फॉर इज कि मेरा बस ये छोटा सा काम ऑटोमेट कर दो ये कर दो बट नो वी वर लुकिंग फॉर समथिंग व्हिच वाज नॉट अ डेल्टा इनोवेशन बट अ स्टेप function change, right? So we observed that one thing which is common across the entire healthcare segment, especially in inpatient department and so on, is healthcare needs to be data driven. That everyone agrees, everyone at least wants to believe that, right? We today as well, when we go to a doctor, it is based on reports, it is based on some data, some OPD. Also, if we go, they'll take temperature from thermometer, they'll take SpO2 and all of that. They'll take your blood work to determine what is exactly the cause. So it is data driven. Having said that, when we are inside the hospital or even at home while we are recuperating, at that time data goes for a toss. Then there is no data. Then it is just feeling कि कैसा लग रहा है. On the basis of that, medicines are given and all of that, right? We thought that why can't we make this part also more data driven, right? More evidence based and so on. And for that, one of the primary things that we have to do is we have to make the process of data collection super easy, right? One is that. Then once we have cracked data collection, then using this data, can we create analytics which can actually improve decision making? And the last part is, of course, and then can we use AI to finally improve the patient outcomes? Right. So these were three steps that we determined which can really create a difference. Right. And we started working towards how to make data collection easy. The step one towards that, right? We thought that, the place where, person who is recuperating, I don't want to use the word patient per se, but person when they are recuperating, when they are recovering and all of that is their bed, home bed or hospital bed. Nonetheless, they are on their bed. So why can't that damn bed itself be so smart that it knows how well are you doing, right? That basic data collection is done by the bed with zero intrusion, right? So we had always the idea that for it to be super scalable, it has to be very simple for the end user. End user is patient and nurses. So it has to be installed once and forget it model. It has to be like zero friction for the user. And that's where, we came up with this contactless monitoring piece, right?
What were the things that you wanted to monitor?
So heart rate, respiration, blood pressure, SpO2, and temperature. These are five things that are called vitals. And these are called vitals because they give a true picture about your health, right? Over it, I would say, there are few more parameters which also are very good indicators about your health, which is your sleep, right? And now probably, your sugar levels as well, right? And that is where we started that, how many of these parameters can we monitor without touching the person as well, right? And that's how the journey started of making a contactless monitor. Just place it under the mattress once, and that's it. Moment the user sleeps on it, the data starts flowing. It is available on the cloud so that nurses can monitor it remotely. And then AI is also monitoring this data, doing the trend based analysis, but because it is not possible for a human to just keep on staring at a screen. So if a patient's data is changing and is reaching a concerning level, the AI will flag it in early stages, code blue event, so that the early signs of developing an infection, right, which are very clear based on this data. And there are tons of research on this. This is not something which we have innovated. What we have innovated is how to seamlessly take the data, how to make it available, the place where it can be utilized perfectly, and then giving them right kind of information so that they can take right kind of interventions. Right, that is what we do.
So this sounds like a hard device to build. something which can be discreet enough to not bother your sleep when it goes under the mattress. And so how did you go about trying to build this? How many iterations did you have to do? How did you figure out the hardware part of it?
It was hard, of course. So it took us almost 4.5 years to perfect, right? And because we had to perfect it to that limit that whatever be the mattress, it can be an 18-inch mattress, doesn't matter. Whatever is the posture, it doesn't really matter. But it can placed under an 18-inch mattress also, it can monitor a tiny heart wall movement also.
Is it like a sheet or what is it like?
Yeah, it's like a sheet. That's it. It's like a sheet. You just place it under the mattress. That's it.
Okay. So it's a sheet which has some very tiny sensors embedded in it.
Correct. So it has vibration sensors. So in principle, it is monitoring vibrations produced by every heartbeat. Every time your heart is ejecting out blood, every time you are inhaling, exhaling, smallest of body movements, it is capturing the vibration which is produced in that, and then converting it into electrical signals so that they can be tracked, and then using AI to then segregate it into different biomarkers, heart rate, respiration. In fact, even what is left ventricle ejection time, how much time your heart is taking to pump out blood. That is called left ventricle ejection time. Blood pressure. Now, this is something which is very, very, very unique to Dozy, not just in India, but in the world. In fact, arguably, this is world's first contactless blood pressure. For 150 years, we know about that cuff-based blood pressure of different variations, mercury-based, digital, and so on, right? But this was placed under the mattress. And now the recent study that we have done with couple of hospitals, right, in Bangalore, and we are on the verge of dissipating it as well. We compared it with arterial blood pressure, which is a true golden standard, which is generally used in ICUs, which is invasive way, in which a probe is put inside your artery, right? To measure your blood pressure. When we compare that with Dozie's non-contact blood pressure and we compare non-invasive blood pressure by the cuff-based method, we are more accurate than cuff-based method, which is the current standard of care. So not just making it more convenient, but we are also making it more accurate as well. And once you make it like this, now imagine what can happen is instead, what nurses were taking data every 4 hours to 6 hours. You are getting every minute you are getting a data. So you're not waiting for a person's health to deteriorate and then act, right? You already lost 4 to 6 hours in that. And generally, in cases where it is life-threatening conditions are there, 4 to 6 hours is just too much to lose. Right? We can lose people in that. And that's how Dozy saves lives today.
But tell me how you did it. Like what was version one that you launched, and you took 4.5 years. So was it like 4.5 years of no revenue? You spent 4.5 years just to build the product?
It was 4.5 years of no revenue. You are right. And it was, lots of iterations. In fact, yes, I probably went little fast in that. So, and you had asked me that question. It took us almost 6 to 7 iterations, even more than that, actually. Our first iteration, which started working, was in less than 6 months, actually. Very easy.
The idea remained the same, like a sheet with vibration sensors.
Was safe. So sensors we had built in 6 months, right? And I'll come to where the complexity actually lies as well. So in 6 months, we had created a sensor. And to be honest with you, right, even we had not imagined it to be a contactless sensor, right? We had imagined it to be a non-intrusive sensor, which will be like a sheet, which will be put over the mattress. But one thing happened, and one very interesting incident happened, that when we made our first prototype, uh, me and Gaurav thought that it's time to celebrate, right? So let's go out, have chai or something. And we have a very naughty dog. His name is Pai. So he would just tear off everything that will come in his plain eyesight. He was 6 months old at that time, so teething. So he'll just tear it off. Like to save from him, we placed the sensor under the mattress. This guy went and set over the mattress, right? And we were actually getting data. Uh, and that's how Dozy became contactless, right? So that was the start of being contactless. So it was a very interesting story that way. The After that, I think the added complexity this added was that it had to work through different types of matrices and all of that, right? Second thing was because we always wanted to go in clinical settings, it had to go through clinical trials and all of that, right? So we worked with labs like Nimhans, Jaydeva, AIMS, where we proved that although this is contactless, but this is as accurate as ICU grade equipment, even without, and now we are proving it is even notches above that equipment as well.
What were the major challenges in making this device, like the sheet? Was it that uh, the hardware of it, or taking the signals and converting it into markers, or like?
Both had their share of challenges, I would say. When you are making sensors that sensitive that it can pick up even a tiny heart wall movement placed under the mattress, it is also very sensitive. When it is sensitive, it is also going to pick up a lot of noise and so on, right? So then creating algorithms which ensure that no matter what, it is able to also segregate signal from the noise. So making those strong algorithms took us good time training them because it was entirely AI based and all of that. So data collection, doing ethics clearances, everything. Right? We had to go through multiple hospitals. Doing clinical trials is also not an easy job in itself. Registering it with bodies like CTRI and all of that, right? Sometimes things take like months when nothing is happening. So all this has its own set of challenges. And the second part is hardware. So in hardware, one of the problems is standardization. You can create one prototype that works, right? Which you can stabilize and so on. But how to make now a replicable process that gives you a standard quality no matter what? How do you make your output quality check that rejects any kind of faulty sensors which are being made and so on, right? So that you don't find it out in the field. So these are the very practical challenges, nothing very unique to Dozy, but they do come.
And like you intended to manufacture it in house only.
No, no, no. So we even now as well, we don't manufacture it in house because that's not our core. We are not a hardware manufacturer over there. As I mentioned, our IP lies, our business lies in collecting data, dissipating it, and so on. So manufacturing is done through contract manufacturing. We have two facilities right now with us, one in Bangalore, one in Chennai. But if tomorrow need be, we can open 10 more facility in no time without having any kind of capital investment or anything like that. So that is why we wanted to keep it flexible, scalable, right at the end of it. Because finally, if this technology is made, it has not reached masses. We have done nothing. It has to be very scalable. Every point that we made, so we always ensure that that is the core of it.
How did you train the algorithm? Because that needs a lot of data, right? So did you like have it deployed in hospitals where the patient also had a BP machine hooked up or something like that, and had the sheet, and therefore like something like that? Or
To start with, it was not even the patient, it was us. I remember me and Gaurav spending a lot of nights in labs as well with polysomnography machines. So we worked with NIMANS, Human Sleep Research Lab over there, where polysomnography gives you data from EMG, ECG, EOG, right? So EEG, you put 32 electrodes on your brain. EOG, you put 3 electrodes on your eyes. Then you put electrodes for your for sensing any kind of snoring which will happen. Then on the chest, there are two bands, right? And there is ECG to monitor your heart, and then there is EMG on other parts of your body as well. And then an IR based camera also to see your body movements and all of that, right? Yes, and by the way, this is the way sleep study is done. And so when we pitched this, clinicians really loved it, that this is going to change the way we see healthcare because now person doesn't need to come to sleep lab to actually do that. We can simply do it at their home. Today as well, you can do it at home, but that is portable machines, but still it is with variations of a lot of these. But imagine sleeping every day can be a sleep study. right? How your apnea is progressing, how anything is progressing. Now you can get because you're not bothered. It's just under the mattress. Doesn't matter. When we had some about 20 nights of data, we could train algorithms to some extent. We showed that we can do it accurately. Now we needed more data, so that's where then we went to CTRI, ethics clearance. That
What is CTRI?
basically registering your study with the body, so that you can do clinical trials and so on, right, on other subjects as well. So in that way, slightly we were lucky that it is because Dozee is something which is non-contact, non-emission based device.
There are no side effects.
It really doesn't harm. It doesn't harm anyone. So if someone is going through a sleep study, putting a Dozee under the bed doesn't really make a difference, right? So then we got it as well, right? After the results were good, then we started getting few of the patient's data as well, and that's how we started training it further. Then when we had done it in one hospital, we showed the results to another hospital that, see, we have done this. Now we also want to diversify it further, want to also do it on heart patients as well. So that's where Jai Deva came in. That's where now AIMS Jodhpur also came in. Right? So
So essentially, these hospitals are your clinical trial partners. Like
exactly. Correct.
they are running clinical trials along with you.
Correct.
Is this like a paid thing that you pay them to run the clinical trials, or like is it part of growing the body of knowledge and improving the ecosystem? So like that is why they participate in it.
It depends. Generally, in government institutes and public institutes, it's not paid. Basically, yes, you pay a part of it, but then you are just for whatever operational costs are there. You are paying for that, right? Uh,
Okay, you're just covering their costs.
Yes. So government bodies are not supposed to make any money and so on out of this, right? It is for, as you mentioned, for taking the science further and then doing publications. So once we do publications and all of that, so it is co-authored and all of that. But there also comes a time then when speed also matters. At that times you hire, and where we are today. Right. So today, when we have to do a trial, we also go to some bodies, and generally these are private institutions as well, where we have to do, and then data collection not just in public setting but in private as well, right? Because now settings also matter. Now you have to do data collection not just in India but in US as well. For say FDA, right? They won't accept Indian data; they also would like US data as well. So at that time, so it is paid, and at that time you have to pay a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, right, right. Okay. So during this period of R&D, I believe you also had like a personal tragedy. Is that something you want to talk about?
So yes. So during about when we are building all of this up, I was always very enthusiastic about going outdoors and so on, right? And my break from my work would be that I'll go for a run, walk, drive outside city. So after maybe some stressful instinct, I wanted to go out with my dogs for a run. Right, we were running around a lake. In that time, these two dogs went into the lake, and they would generally do, right. One of them is Labrador, so he is fond of water. So whenever he sees water, he has to jump into that. So went quite deep into the lake, and I saw that he started panicking a bit, right, and seemed to me he is drowning. So without thinking much, I jumped into the lake. And when I approached the dog, I saw that actually there was a crocodile which was approaching him. So I came in between the dog and the crocodile. So I saved the dog. I pulled him out as well. But basically, I lost my left arm in the entire process. So I literally had to fight a crocodile to come out at that time, because he had pulled me into the deep waters, right? So I had to, in a way, also break my own arm, which was partly inside crocodile's jaw. So broke my arm. Had that detachment. That's how I came out of the water. Went to hospital. Informed family.
There were people there, or you drove yourself, or they?
No, no, people were there. As in, it was. I wished it was that heroic.
No, this is pretty heroic on its own.
So yeah, then so this happened, right? Recovered in some time. It took me about a week or two to recover completely. Came out of hospital, was in ICU, had a couple of surgeries also after that.
This was in like about a year after you had started Dozy.
About 3 years, about 2 years after that, 2.5 years.
Okay, 2 years after. Okay.
So yeah, we were quite in the middle of it actually, right? And I then came out, and always my approach towards a problem has been that we'll solve it through engineering, because I actually was left with a shorter term than what generally is required for putting a prosthetic and so on, right? So many of the companies which have prosthetic arms actually refused me, right? That is not possible for this. So I decided to build a prosthetic for my own, on my own. And basically, it is also controlled by my brain and so on as well. So I can still, function it to a good extent. I can hold things, flip things, and all of that by just thinking about it. So yes, so that is also something which both again me and Gaurav we did that. So he did the coding part of it while I took care of the hardware, has the design and all of it. It was kind of a mini weekend project that we had taken outside those years. Well, so yeah.
How does your brain control the prosthetic arm? How do the signals travel? Like,
So exactly how yours also does. So what actually happens and the science behind that is when you are controlling your arm or you want it to open or close, what is happening is your brain is sending signal to basically the nerves, right, which also travel on your surface as well, of your skin. And if you can tap those signals, right, and then train AI algorithms that, when you think this, when the signals are like this, it means this. When signals are like this, then it means this, right? So you can do some level of that. It's still not as sophisticated as your hand as you, as in we sometimes, forget to imagine what kind of gifts we have got. As in this kind of dexterity, what we have in our hand, I don't think we are going to get there even in next 20 years as well. But you can do something about it.
wow. And this is like standard. Most prosthetic arms have this technology of like some sensors which can read the electric signals.
Correct, correct. So prosthetic arms, not most, but the advanced ones, very advanced ones are there.
Okay. So, how are you funding this? Like, it must have been about 2019 or so by the time you were ready to deploy. Those 4 years, how did you fund it?
So in the beginning, it was all bootstrap money, what we had saved from our job, and we were saving for our higher education or whatever we wanted to do. So it was partly funded by that to start with. Then once we had some prototypes and all, it was funded by grants. And then lastly, it was we also raised some angel money and so on as well, right? Uh, but only after we started getting certain kind of traction, we had product ready for the market. We then raised our first institutional round in 2020 through Prime. And I think you have spoken to Sanjay as well, right before me. So Sanjay was one of the early believers in the company. Now, still, it has been about three more rounds post that, and we have our early backers even till date as well. So Prime Ventures, 314 Capital, Your Nest, who came in 2020 and continue to be with us even today as well.
Yeah, I think you raised about $18 million in the last 2 years, right? Like, this is post your product market fit getting established in a way.
Correct, correct.
How did you do your go to market? Like, essentially, you were doing sales to hospitals. The product is for like ICUs, or like, who's your customer?
So to start with, actually, the thought was to build more for a home kind of scenario. But at that time, one thing which actually has shaped the way healthcare is today is the COVID movement which happened. So COVID really exposed that the healthcare infrastructure that we have is really broken. Therefore, basically, creating faster capacity building was required in terms of critical care and so on. So we started working towards that and started augmenting our home product more towards hospital needs. And then that became the main product. So today, the main product that we have is the hospital product.
Why are they different products? Why? What is different for the hospital product?
Because the operations are different, the way it is used is different, the kind of robustness required, the kind of data consumption that happens, right? So, same technology, similar technology, but from a product standpoint, they're very different, right? One is that, so we started working towards that and we launched our hospital product. It became a huge hit. So,
When did you launch it?
we launched it in late 2020,
And when did you launch the home product?
late 2019.
Okay. What was the home product priced at, and like what kind of sales did you see for that?
The kind of sales that we saw for that was near steadily growing. It was getting a decent amount of traction. I would say from Amazon, our own websites, and all of that. Right? We even had deals with few of the mattress companies as well who wanted to embed the technology into their mattresses and so on. So it was seeing a decent amount of traction over there. Uh, but during the COVID, the entire market crashed for this entire industry, and that's where we thought that probably now it is, and it was very much needed for even the survival of the company as well. So we did that pivot, and it became a huge success.
What did you price the home product at?
So home product was priced at nearly about $200, so about 15,000 odd rupees, right? For
Yeah, which is very affordable, right? Okay.
for about 2 years of subscription and so on.
So, like the subscription is for the data. How did the data get transferred? Was it like using Bluetooth or like what?
So it connects using Wi-Fi. So it's like your Google Home Alexa model, right? It is connected to your internet and uses it to transmit the data to the cloud and so on.
And for a home user, it's like a sheet you put under the mattress. Okay. Put it under the mattress and you plug it to a power source probably. And then you use your mobile phone and there must be an app to connect it to Wi-Fi. And then that app would start showing you the statistics, and you can choose to share those statistics with a doctor if you want to, or something like that.
You got it damn right, doesn't it?
And the hospital product, for in hospital, probably you would need to connect to their information system, I guess. Like hospitals may be using some enterprise grade information system.
Not all, but yes, the bigger hospitals, likes of Apollos and so on, they do, and that's where we have to work with them to do that. Right, one is that. Secondly, the rate of data transmission is much higher because there the need for real-time information is there. The alert system is very distinct, right? And then there are reports which are needed by the hospitals, right? So the consumption of reports, timing of it, escalation matrix. If alert comes to this, 10 minutes, nothing happen, it goes to this, and so on, right? So that making that entire escalation matrix, etc., is very much critical. Then what is also needed is that it is not just about the parameters that you are giving contactlessly, but say a category of patients may also require something more. So your device also needs to be extensible that way. So imagine there is as in a patient post cardiac surgery, right, might also require rhythm monitoring as well, because they might develop certain kind of arrhythmias in CABG kind of setups and so on. And now you also need to monitor the rhythm as well. Now that is not possible to do contactlessly. It doesn't matter. You use a patch, put it on the patient, it integrates to Dozee, and it gets even that information as well. So that's where that device is also extensible as and when needed. There, in future, right, there is a diabetic patient. So then, taking even glucose reading is also important. And just put a glucometer over there and that also starts taking the data in the same line. But the clinicians are getting the entire information at one place, right? In the most seamless way, in the easiest possible way, which is there.
Okay. And like hospitals typically deploy this across all beds or only ICU beds, or like?
Actually, not in ICU. ICU, they already have monitors, so they don't require it. And their nurse to patient ratio is 1:1. Where it augments is actually outside ICU, where the staff is not that highly trained as well. At the same time, the monitoring is intermittent. So outside ICU, where there are critical to subcritical kind of patients, right? So these are typically about 10 to 20% of the beds. To start with, it starts from there. But then we have also seen hospitals putting it in every bed as well, right? Once they start seeing that this actually improves the efficiency, this makes the patient outcomes much better, then reduces the burden on nursing. So they adopt it later on a larger set of beds as well. So that happens. And not just that we have seen, even what we have seen is then outgoing patients also, take the home monitoring piece as well. So that is how our GTM entirely works.
Okay. So the hospital, it becomes like a B2B to C kind of a sales channel.
Correct. Correct.
So I guess the critical thing here is hospital onboarding. So how do you do that? Like you have like a sales team which is like building relationships with hospitals, and like how did you figure that out? Like, I mean, getting time from hospitals is like not the easiest thing to do. How did you figure all of that out?
So we have a very experienced sales team, which typically has experience of selling medical devices and equipment to hospitals already. And yeah, that is how it is done. That is how we do it as well.
And how many devices have you sold till date? Like, what is the
So we have currently about 7,500 hospital beds at Dozee monitors today.
Hmm. Okay. And your revenue is one time cost plus a subscription also, because for the data and the
For hospitals, it is a pure subscription because it's a B2B kind of a model. Uh, for home, it is what you are saying, one time plus subscription.
okay. So why did you decide to change the model for hospitals that not charge them a one time and only subscription?
Just to reduce the barrier to entry a bit, as in we are fine with even that as well. One way or other, these are financings, which work out. This works for us. It kind of, also tells a hospital that we have skin in the game as well. Right? Because we are a new company today, we have to approach it differently. When we are taking subscription, at that time, hospitals knows that we are going to give best quality services. Right? It is not just one time sell and one kind of a method for which we have come over here. We are here to stay. We are here to give the best services. And that is the kind of commitment that is needed as well.
What's your headcount? Like, how big are you as a company?
So today we have about 260 member team.
Wow. Okay. And what is the split like?
So about 40 people are in sales, about 70 are in technology, product development, R&D. Right. There is a good team for even support functions as well, both for home and hospital. So there is close to about 70 people that we have in field and so on for support and so on. And then there are augmentary functions like HR, finance. Right? So that's where we have rest of the people.
No, okay. So, what's the roadmap for Dozy? Like, do you see yourself like, say, an Apple, which is like devices plus, like, Apple is like an ecosystem of devices and software and services and all of that. Like, is that what you see Dozy as, or?
You can say that's a good parallel, but where we would probably differ with Apple is that we are not restricted to just our devices, right? We want to create a platform that unifies this entire, the true continuum of care from home to ICU, right? The entire patient data flow, which is there and which is required in the most seamless way. We want to build a platform for that. There are certain kind of places where we have reimagined the way data should be collected, like in wards, like at home, and so on, where we are going to own it. Right. At the same time, we also understand that not everything we are going to create. That's where we work a lot on the partnerships. We work on integrations as well to complete the picture as well. Right. It is not just giving some things in the best way, but as and when needed, being open to more things in that ecosystem as well. Right.
Like you could have like a smartwatch integration, so someone who's wearing a smartwatch, that data also goes through Dozy into the dashboard of the doctor.
In fact, we are working on that exactly.
How much of your focus is on India and how much outside India? Like, what do you see currently? I guess it must be all India, right? The revenues.
Currently, it is all India, 100% India, but we are also expecting our FDA 510K soon.
Okay, 510K is like an approval. Okay.
Yes. FDA is two kinds, FDA 510K and FDA de novo. FDA 510K approval is something that we are awaiting. Once we have that, we are going to launch this outside India as well. In fact, we have already started preparations as well. Africa is something we are starting right away.
Yeah, Africa would be a great market, no, in terms of like the opportunities there.
Correct. So one model, right? So India is a good mix of two markets that I would say, both developing as well as developed market. So the developing market, which we have cracked, that using technology to improve efficiency, give better outcomes, where in low resource settings, that is something which is directly replicable in all of these places because they have similar set of issues. And the other one, which is the developed market, they have issues of aging and so on. So there, the approach is going to be slightly different. But we have models for both.
So amazing. Within India, what is your split between metro cities and tier two, tier three? Like, have you gone beyond metros? Is it largely in metros right now?
I won't say it is just in metros. Metros is probably 40%, tier one is 40%, and then comes tier three as well, till where we have reached. We have hospitals in places like Jagdalpur, which I had never heard of as well, where they are using this technology as well. Uh, Jagdalpur, Hubli, Shimoga. Right, so we do have, even tier three towns, hospitals also on this, especially in the public settings. In public settings, we have gone beyond the metros and tier ones. In private, yes, we are still more loaded towards metros because that's where our sales team and everything is.
And what do you price it at? Like subscription for a hospital? What is the monthly per bed that they need to pay?
So it little bit depends upon what is the services that they require. It ranges between about $500 to about $1,000 a year over there.
Got it. Okay. So, India is launching this initiatives around patient health records and making it interoperable also. Each patient can get a unique health record ID. I'm not fully clear on the mechanics of it, but what you are building, how does that plug into this ecosystem which India is creating?
Directly plugs into that. It is in fact, we are working with the NDHM team as well, right, over there. And moment, right now it is more focused towards spot checks and telemedicine. But as soon as they are open for more data streamings and so on, uh, we are going to ensure that, Dozee is directly available, pluggable to that as well. Uh, right. In fact, that is a great vision which is there, and we would like to fully support that. In fact, that aligns completely with Dozee's vision as well, right? Making data more available, more accessible, right? That's perfect.
So, what is NDHM?
National Digital Health Mission.
Okay.
It was, I think, the earlier name. They have renamed it to ABDM or something like
Okay. And they're supposed to be like private players who will create these patient health record IDs, no? So are you going to be one of those? Or are you going to plug into those private players who create the, like I spoke to Eka Care, which is in that.
yeah. So our role will be different actually. So patient onboarding, yes, we can also do that bit as well. But our role will be more into data creation piece. That imagine someone has a UHID or someone has the NDHM ID which is there, then they can put their dozy records into their IDs. So, which will be available to any of the hospitals they are consulting and so on as well. So, our role is more into being the data creator part, and then if they have their data available from other sources, then Dozy can also be a place where they can also view it and use some advanced analytics. So data consumption and creation part is something that will come on to Dozy, right? So there are different roles that every player plays. So we will be there.
Okay. So the Dozy app would be more focused on stream of information, whereas like this UHID, Universal Health ID apps will be point of time information. Like on 3rd of January, this was your blood sugar level, for example.
Correct. 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 But that is also important. So Dozy will also, add on to that data point as well. So you can today as well, you can export reports which can go into that. So your movement instance can go into that for that matter, right?
Okay. So I guess an important piece of building this interoperable ecosystem is alliances with other device makers. So what are you doing on that front? Like, I guess there's Ultra Human, which has this again real time monitoring of sugar and so on. So are you like building collaborations there to have the data flow?
We are. So, yes, so for that, whatever are the kind of communication layers and everything which are needed, we already have those. And then there are certain standards in which, medical devices operate, like HL7, FHIR. So we do work in those standards. It is not that difficult actually for us to integrate to something or for them to integrate with us. Right? Either way, it is very easy and straightforward.
Yeah, okay. And are you looking to raise more funds?
Yeah, of course. We have to go deeper in India market. It's a demanding market in itself, huge potential, but demanding. At the same time, we are also expanding now outside India as well, especially after MT and so on. So yes, we'll be raising funds as well.
And that brings us to the end of this conversation. I want to ask you for a favor now. Did you like listening to this show? I'd love to hear your feedback about it. Do you have your own startup ideas? I'd love to hear them. Do you have questions for any of the guests that you heard about in this show? I'd love to get your questions and pass them on to the guests. Write to me at ad@thepodium.in. That's ad@thepodium.in.